Right, folks, there you heard Hand in Glove, and sitting here in the orchestra pit is Morrissey, the catalyst and main man in etc. from the Smiths. Welcome, Morrissey.
Hello, thank you.
Morrissey, as a kid growing up in Manchester, did you actually plan to be a singer? Did you foresee that?
I did in a very underhand way. I knew I had to have something to do with popular music because it impressed me so much. It was the only thing that I really ever cared about. And as I grew older, I realised that it was really the last refuge for young people. They didn't have anything else. Certainly where I came from, which was a working class background, people didn't have any money to do anything. All they had really was their records. And this one record that they bought a week was more precious to them than anything. And I realised that, and I wanted to be involved somehow.
And who were your heroes?
I had many. I was an ardent consumer from a very, very early age. I bought all the usual popular records of the 1960s. I seemed to like everybody. For some obscure reason, I really was more impressed by the female voices. People like Sandy Shaw, Cilla Black, Marianne Faithfull. And I seemed to like them more so than the groups, which I always thought was really quite strange until I later met other people who felt exactly the same way.
But, I mean, were they kind of pin-ups to you, or what?
Well, they were. I mean, I don't know how much of a pin-up those people can be to somebody of the age of 6 or 7, but I do remember feeling something incredibly passionate about the whole thing. But, yes, they seem to be almost everything to me.
And who do you remember, Morrissey, going to see live? What was the first live gig you saw?
The first live gig I saw was T-Rex in 1972, which was, again, very, very passionate. But it didn't last very long with me. It was just something very brief.
Anyone who ever loved could look at me and know that I love you. Anyone who ever dreamed could look at me and know I dream of you. Knowing I love you so. Goodbye, dear. Loving you the way I do, I take you back. Without you, I die, dear. Knowing I love you so. Would take me in his arms and love me too.
You seem to be well keen on two chaps who sort of are, I suppose, kind of outside the pop music thing, Oscar Wilde and James Dean.
Yeah, that's true. For most of my life, at any rate, these two people have always meant a great deal to me, which always sounds very silly and always sounds very as if I'm living in a complete world of fantasy. But they always did mean a great deal to me, and they still do. I find as time goes by, they mean even more to me.
Well, would you be kind enough to explain, first of all, the James Dean thing?
Well, I think I was really more impressed with his life off the screen. I was never really terribly impressed by anything that he put, any of his film works. I always thought they were quite disposable. But his own history, his personal life, and his death, of course, just had immense appeal to me. And I always thought he was a wonderful stylist. Almost everything that he wore was absolutely perfect. And his own personal history was really quite special, and to me quite compulsive.
Do you think one of the attractions there is that physically, anyway, he ceased to exist?
No, because I don't feel that way about people. I mean, there's lots of people who have died, and I don't feel the same way. It is something quite different. I don't know what it was. I think it was because I became so attached to him at a very early age, and that was important to me, because he was really one of the first people who ever really impressed me, who made me think about life. And I can see this as being very, very trite and very, very childish, and when people tell me that it is, I can understand what they mean. But nonetheless, I still feel this strange mystical passion, if that's what it is.
And what about Oscar Wilde, Morrissey?
Oscar Wilde is more or less the same story, really. Every solitary line that he ever wrote, it just stirred me immensely. And I can still reread all the works, and it's as if I'm reading them for the first time. I do like the element of tragedy that was in his life. The fact that he was hounded and imprisoned, and it had there's a wonderful tragic element to it that I really like.
Do you have a favourite line of his?
Yes, I do. Possibly the best one is for me at any rate, is the artist must educate the critic, which sounds terribly snobby and very patronising, but in a way it's almost true.
Would you like to explain your interpretation of that?
Well, I don't dislike the music press by any means, but I do get slightly upset when certain writers virtually destroy the lives of particular artists, and